All right, so are you ready to dive into this 2025 stock market? We're looking to make some smart decisions this year, right? And this year is not looking average, let me tell you. Interest rates are going up, tech is changing the game constantly, and we've got all these new regulations coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's a very interesting mix, that's for sure. A ton of opportunity, but also, a good amount of risk. You could think of it as navigating a jungle. It's lush, tons of possibilities, but you need to have the right tools, the right map, so to speak.
Okay, so 2025 is a jungle. I like that. But how do we even start to make sense of it all? What are the things investors should be watching out for?
Well, you've got to think about the big trends. These are like the weather in this jungle. And one of the biggest storms we're seeing is tech and AI. I mean, we're not just talking about those big names like NVIDIA or OpenAI making the news. It's really the ripple effect that's interesting here.
So you're saying, like, instead of just buying stock in, let's say, one of those big AI companies, we should be looking at how AI is changing other industries.
Exactly. Think about it. How could AI completely revolutionize healthcare? Could it personalize education, streamline finance? I mean, all these areas are just ripe for disruption. And the companies leading the charge in those areas, well, that could be your ticket to some serious growth.
All right, you've definitely got my attention. But what about, all the financial stuff? I mean, we've been on this economic roller coaster the past few years with all this inflation. Does that play into our jungle adventure for 2025?
Of course, yeah, it plays a role. But remember, every storm brings new opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve, they've been working hard to get this inflation under control. And that means we're starting to see some potentially undervalued stocks in those sectors that got hit the hardest.
Yeah, okay, undervalued stocks. Sounds good to me, but can you give me an example? I need to really visualize this.
Sure, let's take the travel industry as an example. Think about how expensive, I mean, really expensive flights and hotels got during that peak inflation time. That hurt a lot of companies, really hurt them. But now things are starting to stabilize. People are getting that travel bug again, and those travel companies are starting to recover, right? But their stock prices, those might still be lagging behind. That's where the opportunity lies, you see. Finding those companies that are ready for a big comeback before the rest of the market catches on.
So it's like finding, I don't know, a hidden oasis in our jungle.
Right.
Right? It's a place where everything's starting to flourish again, but maybe people haven't really discovered it yet.
Exactly. And it's not just travel. Think about retail. Everyone was cutting back when inflation was high, but as the economy gets better, those luxury brands, the everyday retailers, they're seeing more and more demand. So that's another area where you might find some real hidden gems, some undervalued companies.
Okay, so we've got tech and AI changing everything. We've got potential bargains popping up as the economy recovers. It's a lot to think about. Maybe we should take a breath for a second, look at the map, and figure out which specific sectors we should be exploring in this 2025 jungle.
I think that's a great idea. Let's zoom in on the map and get specific. We've talked about tech, travel, and retail, but there are definitely a few other important sectors you need to have on your radar.
All right, so jungle map in hand. Which sectors are we looking at for our 2025 adventure?
Well, we've already touched on tech and how AI is changing things, but you got to remember this is a huge jungle out there. Don't just, stick to those big names.
So looking beyond the NVIDIAs and the OpenAIs of the world.
Exactly. I like to think of it this way. Everyone knows about the giant redwoods in a forest. But underneath those trees, there's this whole ecosystem thriving, right? So in tech, those smaller plants are the companies working on very specific AI applications, for certain industries.
So like a company using AI to help with farming or to create personalized medicine.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of companies that could really explode as AI gets more integrated into, well, everything. And the best part, a lot of these companies are still under the radar, which means you could get in early on the ground floor.
That's where you find the real treasures, right? Those hidden gems before they're, household names.
Yeah.
So what other sectors are we looking at on our jungle trek here?
Let's talk about healthcare and biotech. This is a sector that's always changing, and 2025 is no different. Personalized medicine and telehealth, those are two areas that are really starting to take off.
Yeah, I've heard those terms, but remind me what makes them so special. Break it down for me.
Okay, imagine a world where treatments are designed specifically for your genes, your genetic makeup, or a world where you can see a doctor, a specialist even, from anywhere. That's what personalized medicine and telehealth are all about.
So it's not just about treating diseases. It's about preventing them, making healthcare more accessible, and just better,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. And the companies working on these technologies, they're attracting massive investment. It's a sector where you can definitely see big returns, but it's important to remember that biotech, well, it's known for being high risk and high reward.
Got it. So lots of research is key. We don't want to be swinging blindly through the jungle.
Absolutely. Now, moving from saving lives to saving the planet, let's shift gears and talk about energy and renewables. This is a sector that's just exploding as we try to create a greener future. And that means some really exciting investment opportunities.
I'm all ears. I know renewable energy is, a hot topic, but where do we even begin?
Well, the key is to find those specific companies and technologies that are leading this change to clean energy. Think about companies working on green hydrogen, for example. That has the potential to completely change how we store and transport energy. Or how about companies making solar panels? The demand for solar energy is through the roof, and these companies are right at the forefront of that growth.
Okay, so looking for the companies that are building the infrastructure for a sustainable future, right? What about electric vehicles? Everyone's talking about EVs.
Right, you are. And EVs are a big part of this clean energy revolution. Investing in those companies that make EV batteries, that could be a really smart move. Those batteries, I mean, they're essential for EVs, and the demand, it's only going to go up from here.
Okay, I'm getting a little overwhelmed here. It's like so many companies and technologies within renewables. Is there a way to simplify things?
Definitely. You could look at exchange-traded funds. Those are called ETFs. Think of an ETF like a trail mix, right? It combines all sorts of ingredients, or in this case, stocks, focused on a specific area.
So instead of trying to pick out all the different nuts and seeds myself, I can just grab a handful of trail mix and get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, pretty much. And a good ETF for renewable energy is ICLN. That stands for iShares Global Clean Energy ETF. It tracks a bunch of companies that are all about renewable energy production all over the world. So with just one investment, you get exposure to a lot of different companies.
Okay, that's way more manageable. Diversification, isn't that a core idea in investing anyway? Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Absolutely. Spreading your investments across different areas helps to, balance out the risk. Now, before we finish up with the sectors, let's talk about something a little more familiar: consumer goods and retail.
Okay, this is a sector I can definitely relate to. You know, we all buy stuff every day. But how does that translate into investing? I'm curious. So we're talking about like investing in the stuff we buy every day: clothes, food, electronics, that kind of thing. But isn't retail kind of, struggling with all the online shopping these days?
Yeah, that's a good point. It highlights something really important. We're not talking about investing in just any retail company, right? It's about finding the ones that are changing with the times, the ones that are actually doing well in this new environment.
So we're looking for companies that are like embracing e-commerce, right? The ones that have figured out how to make online shopping really smooth and easy.
Exactly. Think about those companies that are doing direct-to-consumer really well. They're cutting out the middleman, building strong relationships with their customers online. And as the economy gets stronger, those companies are set up to benefit from people spending more.
Okay, so we've got tech, healthcare, renewable energy, and even retail on our list here. But knowing where to look is only half the battle, right? How do we actually, invest in these opportunities? What are the strategies that can help us navigate this jungle and come out ahead?
Well, imagine this. You're picking how you want to travel through this jungle. Are you going to stick to the well-marked trails, or are you going to, blaze your own path? There are different ways to approach it, and the right one for you really depends on how much risk you're comfortable with and what your goals are.
Okay, so let's talk strategies. One that I've always been curious about is value investing. But if I'm being honest, it's always seemed kind of like mysterious, something only those Wall Street experts understand.
It's actually not that complicated. Think of it like treasure hunting. You're looking for those hidden gems, stocks that are undervalued by the market.
So it's like finding a rare orchid hidden deep in the jungle,
Yeah.
right? Something that's super valuable, but most people just don't even see it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Remember we talked about those sectors recovering after inflation? Well, that's where value investing can be really powerful. You're looking for companies with strong fundamentals. They're solid businesses, but their stock price hasn't caught up to their real potential.
Okay, so how do we actually find these hidden gems? Do we just like wander around hoping to stumble upon them?
Well, not exactly. There are tools, resources that can help you in your search. They're like a treasure map. One of those is Morningstar. They give you all this in-depth financial data, analyst ratings, all sorts of information that can help you see past the surface and figure out what a company is really worth.
So intrinsic value, that sounds like a key concept. What does that even mean?
Imagine a company is like a fruit tree. The market might just see the leaves and branches, right? But if you dig a little deeper, you discover the fruit hidden inside. That's intrinsic value. It's about the real worth of a company, and that's what value investors focus on.
I like that analogy. So it's not just about the stock price. It's about looking deeper to understand the company itself.
Exactly. Now, value investing is about finding those bargains, those hidden gems. But growth investing, that's a different approach. It's like instead of hiking, you're choosing to zip line through the jungle canopy. You're going for a faster, more exciting ride.
Growth investing sounds a bit more adventurous. Tell me more.
With growth investing, you're focusing on companies in those fast-moving sectors we talked about earlier. Think AI, biotech, renewables, those companies that are really pushing the boundaries and changing things.
So instead of looking for bargains, we're looking for companies that are going to be big in the future.
Exactly. These companies, they might not be making a ton of money yet, but they have huge potential. Their stock price reflects that, that optimism about the future. It's higher risk, but also the potential for higher rewards.
Are there tools that can help us find these high-growth companies? Some sort of compass for our zipline adventure?
For sure. Platforms like ARK Invest, they can be your guide. They manage ETFs that are all about disruptive innovation. It's like having an experienced jungle explorer leading the way.
Okay, so whether we're treasure hunting with value investing or ziplining with growth investing, we need to be smart about it.
And that brings us back to that really important principle, diversification. Doesn't matter what path you choose, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your investments across sectors, asset classes, even different strategies.
Like making sure you have a well-stocked survival kit, right?
Yeah.
You need different tools to make it in the jungle.
Exactly. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. There are people and resources that can help you along the way. Think of them as experienced guides who can offer advice and support.
So where do we find these, knowledgeable guides?
Well, you have a few options. If you're really into research and analysis, platforms like Seeking Alpha or Bloomberg Terminal are great. They give you a ton of information, but they can be a lot for beginners.
What about those of us who want to, take a bit more of a hands-off approach? Like we're not quite ready to be full-on jungle explorers.
There are options for that too. Robo-advisors like Betterment or Wealthfront, they manage your portfolio for you based on your risk tolerance and your goals. They take some of the work off your plate.
I like the sound of that. But at the end of the day, investing really comes down to knowledge, doesn't it?
You're absolutely right. Learning is key and it never stops. Find some financial advisors you trust, check out educational YouTube channels, read some classic investment books. The more you learn, the more comfortable you'll be navigating this, investing jungle.
This has been, well, quite a journey. We've looked at the trends shaping the market in 2025, discovered some promising areas to invest in, and even learned about some strategies and resources that can help us along the way. I feel like I'm ready to tackle this jungle now.
And don't forget, the most important tool you have is your own judgment. Stay informed, think strategically, and don't hesitate to ask for help when you need it. This market is out there for you to explore.
So as we head into this new year, what path will you choose? Will you be a value investor, a growth investor, or maybe a little bit of both? There are tons of possibilities out there. The power is in your hands. Happy investing.